Welcome into today's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. My name is Madelyn Burke, alongside the Super Bowl champion Shaun O'Hara. The phone number here is 201-939-4513, or you can find us on social media using hashtag GiantsChat. A reminder that an archive of this show and our entire podcast network is available on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and giants.com/podcasts. Thanks for joining us from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. The bills are paid now. It's Wednesday, my dudes. Let's get into the show. Shaun, lots to get into. First of all, how'd the War Eagles do this weekend?
Yeah, a lot to unpack. War Eagles had actually a pretty good Saturday.
Yeah.
It was a very anticipated matchup against Ridgewood. Ridgewood was undefeated at the time. So it was a very hyped game. Kids were all excited, and they came away with the dub. So it was a good showing by the War Eagles, especially up front. I want to give a shout out to the War Eagles O-line. They represented, did a good job running the football, and we had some big runs.
Love to see it.
Yeah, it was fun. The kids were pumped up. They were excited.
Yeah.
And guess what? Just like in the NFL, you're only as good as your last game. They won that game. Now we have another big one against Ramsey, who is also undefeated, I believe. So, just when you find that you've climbed to the mountaintop, you see that there are many more mountains to climb. That's a Tom Coughlin quote right there.
There you go. Well done, Coach.
Shout out the War Eagles. Let's keep it going.
Congrats to the War Eagles. Let's keep that good vibes going.
Keep it rolling.
As we roll into the New York Football Giants, who, had a little bit of a heartbreaker this weekend.
Yeah, it felt like it was going to be a clean sweep. War Eagles win on Saturday. I'm watching the game. I wasn't with you. I missed being in the studio here with you, but I'm watching the game, and we're up 19-0. I'm like, this is great. Yeah. Let the good times roll.
Yeah.
Here we go. And then everything just, all your hopes, all your dreams, boop, down the drain. Like fourth quarter, it's like, what in the world's going on? It's like bizarre world. I don't know if all of a sudden the oxygen, depletion became a factor, but the Giants went 5 quarters basically without giving up a touchdown, without giving up a point.
Without giving up a point.
And then boom, all of a sudden fourth quarter was an explosion. And it just felt like, and there were times where it was like, oh man, they're getting back in this game. And then Jackson Dart would lead them back and they would get momentum back. And then it just, it all fell apart there at the end. And look, there's a lot of blame to go around. I think Bruce Arians used to always have a saying, look, we don't point fingers, we make fists. And when you make a fist, all your fingers point right back at you. So I think everybody's got to do that. You make a fist, because there are plenty of reasons why they lost this game. And it wasn't just the PATs. It was the defense not being able to get off the field. And it looked very similar to the Dallas game. The way at the end of the game, look, you got to clamp down. And I don't care if you're rushing 3, or rushing 5. There are coverage lanes you're supposed to be in. And look, you can blame coaches all you want for the call. They mishandled that defensive coverage on that big throw.
Execute the defensive coverage. Yes, you're rushing 3, you're dropping 8, and you're playing double robber. But
if you're dropping 8, nobody should be open.
Right.
Like, forget about it. It's not the pass rush. That wasn't an issue. So there's that issue. And then offensively, like Jackson Dart said himself, he threw a bad interception on third down, which, if you have a rookie quarterback, you may not want to put him in a position where he's going to have the chance to make a bad decision like that.
Yeah.
So you run the ball. So look, there's a lot of things in play here. A lot of people that are looking at saying, man, I could have done better in this situation. Mm-hmm. Certainly Jackson has to take care of the football. You can't throw an interception right there, and then give your defense a short field. But there were a lot of good things too that came out of that game.
Yeah.
And I think, when you look at the way of Jackson Dart played, the way he made some big time throws and added the spark to the offense. When they needed to go down the field and score a touchdown, they did that and they finished it. I think that was good. The defense did have
that 4th and 19 throw to Wandale Robinson was great.
Yeah, that was sick. But even Jackson will tell you that he missed the throw to Jalin Hyatt deep. He missed it. There were a couple of opportunities for some big plays that you missed throws that happened. I think the one thing that last week when we talked about this game, the big matchup was going to be, how does the offensive line handle this crowd noise, the silent count, new center, no offensive line coach. Carmen Prezillo was home with his wife who was giving birth.
Yeah.
So that could have easily been a huge distraction and a huge part of the game that went sideways, and it didn't. Nick Bonito was a non-factor, and Jonathan Cooper, not really a non-factor. Andrew Thomas, basically locked them down, and there really weren't issues. I think there was one false start, maybe the whole game, but that was not an issue, which I think going into the game, that was going to be the biggest matchup of the game, was could they slow down that pass rush and keep Jackson Dart upright. So
yeah, great work by the offensive line too. And in a point of change in the game, I think too, was when the injuries started piling up. Earlier in the game, Javon Holland goes down. Dane Belton steps in, and to his credit, incredible performance, especially that goal line stop that we saw
that
late in the game, fourth and two.
He thumped them.
Like, incredible showing from Dane Belton stepping up. Paulson Adebo goes down. You see Tay Banks step in. But as you're seeing the ones on the defense kind of, go out with injury, that was the beginning of kind of letting off the gas a little bit, I think, on the defensive side of the ball. And that's something that, the Giants are going to have to navigate moving forward. And you also mentioned the missed PATs. The Giants waived Jude McTamney this week in a corresponding roster move, as they claimed Corey Black, who they had drafted in the 7th round, didn't make the 53, signed with the Jets practice squad, and the Giants poached him back off the Jets squad, like, hey, listen, come home, and because they need help in the defensive backfield. And so that's going to be a move to monitor this week too, is how healthy are the DBs going into this game against Philly.
Yeah, obviously that's a big part, and look, this league is full of next man up opportunities. So I think that Dane Belton certainly did a great job stepping up with that. With that opportunity, and he made a phenomenal tackle on, I think it was Cortland Sutton, on that 4th and 2 to keep him out of the end zone. So that was a great play. I think when you look at, the defensive line, I thought did a good job against this offense. There was a battle going on. Garrett Bowles, their left tackle, he and Kayvon Thibodeau were going at it. Play after play. There was a lot of extracurricular stuff going on.
Yeah.
But the defense didn't back down. Brian Burns continues to play at another level. When you look at what he's doing, he's the defensive MVP right now. There are still some situational things that are mind-boggling when you see some of the busted coverages. There was a couple times where the defense, and it was on a touchdown in the back of the end zone early on, and I think it might have been one of the first or second touchdowns. The guy was wide open, and the defense was late getting set up and getting lined up, and there was, they were discombobulated, and guys were moving all around. You could see them kind of signaling who has who, and there were guys that were running open in the red zone that should have never been open, and that's just, hey, getting set, getting communication, making sure everybody's on the same page. You've got to figure that stuff out. You got to iron that out. You can't let that happen in week 7.
Yeah, and especially you got to figure it out when you're going into a week 8 matchup in the division, on the road, at Philly, at the Link, against a team that you just kind of beat the brakes off of on national television on Thursday Night Football. Not only, the Eagles lost to the Giants for the first time in some time, on prime time, on a day that was a standalone game. So for several days after, all you saw on the internet was just how great this Giants team is. So for Philly coming into this game, they're going to want to get their lick back. Jalin Hyatt is coming off of a perfect passer rating performance last week against Minnesota, perhaps his best game as a passing quarterback that I've seen of him. But it is interesting because the way that Philly is playing, the run game is not quite what it has been in years past.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of reasons for it. That obviously the Eagles, their offensive line has had some turnover.
But also, speaking of turnover, like sometimes you lose a coordinator, right? And that'll make an impact, right? Kellen Moore takes a job in New Orleans. He's the head coach. But not only did Kellen Moore leave, he took TJ Paganetti with him. And Paganetti was the run game coordinator for the Eagles there. That's a big loss. I mean, people don't really pay attention to the minutia of the coaching staff moves as much as they do the players or the bigger ones. How much is that?
Yeah. No, it's a great point. And I think that kind of stymies some of that progression that you had as you say, all right, we're going to carry over from what we did last year. And now it's, hey, things are different. I think that whenever you change run game coordinators and whenever you change kind of the design and the style with which you attack defenses, everybody has kind of their different ways, different formations and different ways of handling things. I think when you compound that with the fact that everybody, after what Saquon did last year, when you play the Philadelphia Eagles, number one mission right now is we got to stop Saquon.
Yeah.
Shut down 2-6. Like, make them beat us with somebody else. And that is where they've kind of struggled. So, if you have some new offensive plays and some new offensive designs, and then also, you have some change in there at offensive line.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you have a few more negative runs, and I think that's what we're seeing more of this year from Saquon and this Eagles running game is we're seeing a lot more unblocked defenders, a lot more runs for 0 or negative yards. And that was something last year that you never saw. He was untouched for the first 4 yards, and then he was springing those big runs. They're in there, though.
Yeah.
You can see there's times Saquon actually even ripped off a big run last week, and there was a holding penalty on it. I think it was a 30-yard run. Those are things that you didn't see them do the year before. But that's, when you're the defending Super Bowl champions, guess what? You're getting everybody's best. Everybody's coming for you. So it's harder out there, and every single play, you've got to act as if, and you've got to be on point. And I think they're dealing with some of that. They're still finding ways to win games. It's just through kind of a different formula and a different recipe than what they did the year before. So, listen, let's keep that going. We don't need this to be the Saquon Barkley breakout game.
Right.
Let that happen, later on.
Well, and on Thursday Night Football, when we saw early on in the game, Saquon was breaking off some chunks.
He had 31 yards on the first 2 runs.
Right, and then, quieted down.
They stuffed them. They bottled them up. I think that's, obviously Shane Bowen, that's a big point of emphasis for any defensive coordinator. Stop the run first, and then let's be good on third down. This Giants defense plays a lot of man.
Yeah.
So when you play a lot of man, you can get that extra safety in the box, and that helps you with the run game. But now it does put you at a little bit of a disadvantage if you've got some guys that can make plays in one-on-one coverage. So that puts a lot of stress on your corners. To your mention about Paulson Debo, we'll see where he's at. Now all of a sudden, look, if Debo's not there, maybe you want to kind of rethink, how you want to play coverage on third down and how you want to defend this Eagles offense that seems to be taking flight now. Devontae Smith just had a monster game. It seems like it's taken them a while to get into some rhythm, but they're starting to play a little bit better. This will be a big, not just the matchup with the Eagles, but based on what happened in Denver, this is a big game for both sides of the ball, but really defensively. You're on the road now, and we haven't won down in Philly since 2013. So the link has been it's been a tough place for the Giants for the last few years, and that's a long time to go down there and have to take that bus ride back with an L. So this will be a big challenge. Big challenge.
And again, those injuries that we saw piling up late in the game in Denver are still kind of lingering. Today, Wednesday, Brian Burns not practicing because of a right foot injury. Javon Holland, knee injury, not practicing. Paulson Adebo, knee injury, not practicing. Chauncey Golston not practicing with a neck injury. We do have kicker Graham Gano designated for return. He will practice today, so that's a positive. News. But on the defensive side of the ball, a lot of big names, including Brian Burns, who's leading the league with 9 sacks on the season through the first 7 weeks. Impactful players, obviously, hopefully, a couple days of rest, rehab, recovery can get him ready for game day on Sunday.
Yeah, when you mentioned Brian Burns, I was kind of hoping that it was like, hey, it's a vet day.
No, because we saw him kind of get laid up a little bit in the game, but he pushed through. He's like, no, I'm good. I'm staying in there.
Yeah, I think the fact that he finished the game, you hope that that's a good sign.
Yeah.
But I think for him, look, if he misses a Wednesday practice, not the end of the world. He knows what he's doing, and you want him to be fresh for the game. But to your point about Javon Holland out and Adebo out, that definitely kind of changes things a little bit. So now you've got to make sure that not just if they can't go, it's not just, hey, all right, who's filling in their spot now? Who else?
And then who's the depth behind
that? If somebody else goes down.
Yeah. If Tay Banks goes down,
now what are we doing?
If something happens there. Yeah, you got to prepare for that all. Giants fans, make sure you go and subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. It features long-form interviews with Giants players, coaches, and front office staff, past and present. Plus, hear from the best analysts covering Big Blue and the NFL. Just search for Giants Huddle and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, or go to giants.com/podcasts. And don't forget, if you're on Apple Podcasts, just leave us a 5-star positive review for all of our Giants podcasts. Let us know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's head to the phone lines. Phone lines blowing up today, starting with Althea in New Jersey.
Alethea.
Oh, Alethea. Sorry about that.
Alethea.
I read that wrong.
Yes, it's okay.
So nice to chat with you. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, thank you. How are you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Okay. I just have a question about Jalin Hyatt and why he hasn't been getting the ball more since, like, we don't have, like, a lot of wide receivers and a lot of them are injured. I really feel, like, bad for him since he's been, like, sitting on the bench, like, been waiting patiently. I think he deserves a chance, but, like, Jordan Humphrey has, like, gotten his chance now, and, like, they still haven't given really Jalin Hyatt his chance. It's kind of frustrating, and, like, I think he just deserves a chance to just, like, do something. I don't know.
No, I get that, Alethea, and I think that, Jalin Hyatt's a great player, great guy, big fan of his as a person and as a player, and since he came into this league, and he's been on the field, so it's not like they're kind of just stashing him on the bench. We saw him make a few plays a couple weeks ago against Philly, was that?
Yeah, Philly. He had a bunch of catches.
Yeah.
He had some third down conversions. Look, I think everybody's looking for that Jalin Hyatt kind of breakout game where he burns people down the field. That was what his calling card was when he was at Tennessee. Was coming out was, man, this guy is a flat out burner. So, Alethea, number one, we appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, thanks for
I hope
calling.
you were at the women's tailgate a couple weeks ago, and if not, we got to get you in on that party that Madelyn Burke hosted a couple weeks ago. But Jalin Hyatt, look, he's getting opportunities. He had 25 snaps in that game. So, look, to your point, little Jordan Humphrey is definitely getting more of the snaps. He had 70 snaps in that game. So he and Wandale Robinson are really the 1-2 package right now. I think one of the things that has limited some of Jalin Hyatt's play is Brian Dable and Mike Kafka both love the multiple tight end formation. So we're seeing a lot more Theo and Bellinger out there in 2 tight end formation. So when you do that, that takes a receiver off the field, but it helps your run game. So that's kind of why you're seeing maybe not 40 or 50 reps for Jalin Hyatt. But I will say this. We just talked about at the opening of the show, Jackson Dart missed a couple throws, and one of those deep throws was to Jalin Hyatt. He was open. He was behind the defender. And, that's probably one of the most frustrating things as a receiver.
He had to kind of come back for it, too.
Yeah, he was waiting. Yeah. And, there's times where he's running by people, but the ball doesn't go to him. So I think one of the most frustrating things for receivers, especially guys like Jalin Hyatt, are when you run by a guy and man, I got him beat and I was open, and the ball just doesn't get there for whatever reason. So those are all parts of the game. Whether the quarterback was pressured and flushed out of the pocket, or maybe, he overthrows it or underthrows it. Those are things that, look, good teams just don't miss on, and that's where the Giants are striving to get to. Jalin Hyatt's been very positive, though. He's handled all this really well. He's never been down on himself. Every time you see him here, he's ready to go. He's ready to make the most of his opportunity. Look, I think he's going to have some really good opportunities down in Philly on Sunday.
I'm curious, too, when you look at the way Jalin Hyatt plays, we know, especially in Tennessee, he was a burner. He would get out and get open and kind of have nothing but green grass around him and get the ball. But one area in which I've seen his struggle is when he's got tight coverage, when they're pressing him. Yeah. And if you've got a defender playing press coverage outside, how does he create that separation? That perhaps, coming into the league, people are like, oh, is his route tree? But no, his route tree is great. I think perhaps maybe his area of weakness is creating that separation when he can't do it with just the speed alone.
Yeah, and I think that's what teams, on Wednesday, when you come in and you start preparing for the opponent, you get a playbook with scouting reports on all the players. So I'm sure, all the NFL teams that are, when they're scouting the Giants and you're going, what does this receiver struggle with? That's exactly what they struggle with. So on third down, you're going to say, look, if you are in the slot on Jalin Hyatt, or if you find yourself on Jalin Hyatt, press him. That's, he struggles to get off press. So until you put that fire out, until you change that narrative, that's what you're going to see. I think there are ways you can accommodate that, and you can put a guy in motion, and now they can't press the guy if he's in motion. You can kind of move him around so that they can't, have a corner right on him, right at the line of scrimmage, ready to jam him. But there's also things Jalin Hyatt has to do to defeat that. And I think it's something he's improving on. Yeah.
And we're kind of seeing that as well. I mean, like, it's not unique to Jalin Hyatt. Some guys like Marvin Harrison Jr., kind of similar issue.
Yeah,
like,
Devontae
he doesn't
Smith,
do well with that. Yeah, so it's like, it's not something that it's a knock on him as a player. Everyone's got their strengths and weaknesses, but that's something that I've noticed. To Alethea's point, she said, hey, he's got to get some more opportunities, but like you said, they're preparing for him and they're pressing him, and that's something that he hasn't been able to overcome just yet. Giants fans With another impactful draft and free agency class in the books, that means it's full steam ahead to the 2025 NFL season. Take your fandom to the next level with a Giants season ticket membership and catch all the action at MetLife Stadium with an exciting home schedule on the horizon. With a membership, you'll also stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days, and you'll get exclusive member access and benefits. To learn more about a New York Giants season ticket membership, visit giants.com/tickets. 201-939-4513. Let's go back to the phones. Jacob in Binghamton. Jacob, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun O'Hara and Madelyn Burke.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
What's up, Jacob?
I had a few points on the game, a couple points and a question or two. One, I feel like it is a historical loss, so I can understand a lot of people having the point of view that they're having. But from my perspective, given a few days after the game, there was so much positive to take from the game as well. I love what I'm seeing from Jackson Dart, especially his, and I don't want to go too far with this, but he's showing, in my eyes, some elite traits that just aren't really coachable, like his innate ability to move around the pocket and extend plays is not something that you can necessarily coach in a player. And there's still a lot that he needs to work on, but I love seeing that. It was great watching our defense pitch a shutout for 3 quarters. Obviously, didn't last, but. And then a couple questions. I feel like our O-line is playing outstanding this season, and I was wondering how much of that you attribute to the continuity with most of them playing together last season and then continuing that end of this year.
Yeah, great question. Look, I agree. I think the offensive line has been playing extremely well, and certainly since Andrew Thomas came back, it has been playing at another level. You know, I thought the first game of the season against Washington, they didn't play very well, and I thought that they have gotten better every single week, and that crescendo has continued. I think you have to give credit to everybody on board. You know, the offensive line coaches. I mentioned Carmen Priscillo. Has done a great job with this group. I think they've taken a lot of ownership in getting better and getting better in the areas that they know that they have struggled with. I still think that they are struggling inside with some of the TT twists, which is the defensive tackles. When they twist inside, they're still giving up some penetration with that. So the guards and the centers, those are things that you really have to iron out. Part of that is, Austin Schlottman started at center for JMS, and he doesn't have as many reps with them. So that's always one of the biggest things that is tough to get reps in passing off stunts. But look, the run game has looked good. I mentioned Andrew Thomas has done a really good job. Jermaine Illuminor, I think, has been very steady. There are some things that he needs to get better at. He does not finish blocks well, and that's my pet peeve with him. There are too many times where I see him stop blocking his guy, and his guy goes and hits the quarterback, or ends up jumping in on the pile and making a tackle. So there are things that they can still get better with, but I feel like this offense has a different identity than what we saw from last year and even the year before. Like they're getting better as the game goes along. You're seeing them move the pile. They're being physical up front, and I think Cam Scadaboo has been a big part of that as well. So definitely kudos to the offensive line. They got to keep it up. This is another great opportunity for them against the Eagles. The Eagles have always done a good job against them, and Jalen Carter did not play in that Thursday night game. So you put him back in the lineup now. That interior is going to have their hands full with him. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. He's a difference maker. He's definitely, that defense is different with him on the field. So keep an eye on that. I will say one thing that Jacob started off with. This was a historical loss. I don't get the drama with everybody. Everybody's been saying that. I've been hearing that. I turn on the radio on Monday. I'm driving my kids to school, and everybody's talking about this is a diabolical loss.
Well, numerically,
what are we talking about?
It's the first time in NFL history that we've seen that.
But nobody gave us a chance.
Long since we've seen a comeback that the numerical aspect of it.
The numerical history of it. It's never happened in the
one
league.
stat that I think that's been going around is there was 1,600 games in a row where if a team's up by 18 points with 6 minutes left, they were 1,600-0 in that. And we just, that's where I was coming from, the historical and what everyone was talking about.
The Atlanta Falcons losing in the Super Bowl to the Patriots.
I was talking about more of the positives that I saw from the game.
Yeah.
No, and I appreciate you getting the silver lining, because it's hard to do, especially in the moment when you're watching the game. But a couple days removed, I appreciate you seeing the bigger picture and saying, all right, there's a lot to build off in this one.
No, Jacob, to your point, too, the offensive line, we talked about this before. Denver is a tough place to play. And when I went back last week, was kind of just doing some film watch on, all right, this pass rush. How is Benito getting home? How is Jonathan Cooper getting home? Zach Bryan, that guy is a monster inside. How are they getting a lot of their sacks? A lot of their sacks came on third down. A lot of their sacks were on silent count, and that crowd noise was a factor. They were getting a jump. So this offensive line, I thought they did a great job with the silent count. They actually got them off sides a couple times, and they nullified that pass rush. Like, that was not the significant factor of this game that I think everybody thought was going to be going into it. So, listen, I'm having a little fun with you, Jacob, on the historical thing, because I look at it like, they had the number one ranked defense in the league. They were leading the league in sacks. They had the number one third down defense, number one red zone defense.
And through three quarters, the Giants had them shut out.
Going into that game, nobody thought the Giants were going to win that game, or where we are. And then all of a sudden, everybody raised their bar when they were up 19-0, and now it's, oh my gosh, historical loss. That would have been a historical win,
right?
Like,
it would have been
like that. That to me would have been more appropriate to say this is a historical win on the road, given what they were up against, and given the young players, and they did it without Malik Neighbors, and losing Javon Holland and Adebo, like that would have been
and a banged
significant.
Up Bryant Burns,
and look, you miss a couple PATs, you flop around on a couple other plays, and also, it was definitely a collapse.
Never in league history has a team shut out another team through three quarters and given up 33 points in the fourth. That was another one of those historical stats that's been floating around, which again, there's a first time for everything. You want to be remembered, and the Giants are ingratiating themselves into the history books in many a way.
We have been very creative in losing, in ways to lose games. I think the Washington game last year was the first time that a team had lost a game without giving up a touchdown.
All the field goals.
And that was also because Graham Gano was hurt on the opening kickoff, and we couldn't kick field goals or PATs.
The opposite of Tribe Called Quest.
So,
Can I kick it? No,
we are definitely leading the NFL in inventing ways to lose.
And also in walk-off game-winning field goals for the other team, which is, that's fun for us. Thanks so much for the call, Jacob, and for the good vibes. I appreciate the positivity. Good stuff, man. Great stuff. We got to look at it from a bigger picture, because on Sunday it was heartbreaking for sure for a lot of people. But I do appreciate how many, Giants fans and even, sports pundits in the world have acknowledged the amount of positivity and, that fourth quarter, the altitude, all that kind of stuff, but also just the injury depleted defense by the time we got to the fourth quarter, and the wheels just fell off there.
Yeah.
We're turning the page. We got more to look forward to. We got the Eagles in Philadelphia, and
bring on the birds.
And we've got the Giants 5K to look forward to, because you can run or walk with Giants legends, including one Shaun O'Hara. The Giants Foundation will host a 5K race and kids run presented by Quest on Sunday, October 26th. That's this Sunday at MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation. All participants will receive a commemorative t-shirt as well. And after the race, you can stay for a post-race festival with appearances by Giants legends and a live DJ. Register now at giants.com/5K. The Giants Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation at 9 a.m. Get your run on. Finish on the field at MetLife Stadium. What a unique experience. And run with Shaun.
I'm just looking at the weather.
How's it going to be?
The weather, this to me, I'm not a runner.
Yeah.
I
believe it's pronounced yogging.
I'm not into the whole yogging.
I think the J is soft. You just run for an extended period of time.
Apparently this new sport where you just run. I'm not trying to be the best at conditioning for any of you eastbound and down guys. But Sunday at 9 a.m., the temperature is going to be 45 degrees.
Ooh,
partly
chilly.
Cloudy. But I think that's an optimal temperature. Like, don't want it to be too hot where you're worried about, dehydrating or, cramping up or whatever. But you don't want it to be too cool. The good news is, last year it rained.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good runner's temperature. But I think Sunday it's going to be a great day. I'm looking forward to it. I got a 1.5 mile run in this morning on the treadmill, so I'm trying to prep the joints for that. I'm aiming for like 27 minutes.
All right.
That 3 mile
solid,
run.
Solid 9-minute pace.
It's the hips and the knees. That's what you gotta.
Yeah.
That's what you gotta prepare your body for. But it's gonna be a fun day. Looking forward to it. It's gonna be a
fun day, and it's nice when it's a little cool. Refreshing.
I'm all about the sweat factor.
Yeah, brisk. And it'll be a great energy with all the Giants fans out there and Giants legends, and it's kind of a cool thing for for people to be able to just get onto the field at MetLife Stadium too.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that there's a keg. I feel like that's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Like, there better be a damn keg there. Like, after you get done with a run, there's nothing better than a little carb loading.
Once it hits your lips,
libation,
it's just so good.
Yeah, that first sip, it just hits different after you run 3.1 miles.
Yeah. Well, if there's not,
are you gonna run?
I'm not.
Come on.
I know.
Why don't you get out there? Let's go.
Well, the thing is like, I could do it, but then I'd have to, like, where do I shower? I have to do the show, and I can't go all the way home.
No, don't go home. There's a women's locker room right here. You go shower right here.
That's true. All right. Peer pressure is a real thing. Maybe.
You can do it.
Maybe.
You can do it.
Perchance.
You get to run on. Think about how good you're going to feel. And after that, you come over. You could have breakfast here.
Listen, exercise gives you endorphins. Endorphins make you happy.
You can go in
happy people
players lounge. Use that massage chair. You can get a little.
That's true. Get a little cryo chamber in there.
Get a little recovery.
I'll do the full.
And then you're already here and you're ready to rock.
Do the full athlete experience.
There's a 9:30 game, I believe, right? This week is the last London game. So you could be watching football while you're getting your recovery on.
By 9:30, we'll be hitting the keg on the field. Which tune into Giants post-game live after that.
Yeah, guess what? You can watch it on your phone. We've got football on our phone. I don't know if you remember the Eli and Peyton commercials back in the day. Football on your phone.
Yeah.
No, you'll be standing at the keg.
That's true.
With the phone.
I don't know. I'll probably still be running.
If you start at 9, you'll be done by 9:30.
I'm not the fastest, Shaun.
That's a 10-minute mile. You could do that.
Yeah, I could do that. I could do that.
That is a jogging pace. That is not a sprint.
I'm not a sprinter. I'm a jogger for sure.
And you can walk. You don't have to run the whole time. There are people that run for a little bit, walk for a little bit, run for a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'd get a nice little. I mean, I wouldn't do like the mall walker vibe. I would get a nice little jog in there.
Hey, you're not
just the hips and the those little nylon outfits. Get one of those in too. I don't know. We can see. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. As much as we're shenanigan. Hey, Farva, what's that place you like with all the stuff on the walls? Shenanigans? 201-939-4513. Let's get this train back on the tracks. Jamal calling in from Dallas. Jamal, how's it going? You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun and Madelyn.
Hey, Shaun. Hey, Madelyn. Thanks for taking my call. How y'all doing?
Thanks for calling.
What's up, Jamal?
Hey, I'm gonna be the Grinch a little bit.
Oh, here we go. Calling from Dallas.
Big deal.
Right? You're in enemy territory.
And that's the disturbing part, right? So, diehard Giant fan, long time, so all the things I was just talking about, right, prior, just, all the things that have gone wrong over the last few years with the kicking or defense or offense, line, offensive line, cohesiveness not being intact, and now it looked like we have something. So there's a lot of silver lining. But my concern is with all the positive silver lining, just because we have that silver lining or those positive things, that doesn't always transfer for the following year, right? That doesn't mean that. And I like what I see from Dart. I think he's a quality quarterback, liked him at Ole Miss. Thought he was skilled and good there. I was happy when we drafted him. But, my thing is, okay, what does year 2 look like? Year 1, nobody has tape on you. You're still going off a college film, whatever NFL games you put on tape. And the second year is really the test. Second and third is really the test of, all right, is this kid really it? I'm hoping he is, and I'm thinking he will be, if we continue to stack the way it looks like we're looking. With that being said, my concern is, do we have the right people in place to stack what we need to stack? And my concern is, I don't trust the people that we have in place. I feel like we continue to run into these situations with the PAT kicker, with miscues on defense, whether it's players not playing to their level or potential or their draft status, receivers not able to make the play they need to make, things of that nature. It's like coaches with making bad clock management decisions. It's just a lot. It's like, okay, if we're moving on the upside and we have all these positive things going, do we have the right people in the building to make sure we don't continue to be looking outside in? 5 games, 6 games. We're right there, but we're not good enough. We need this. It feels like every year we need an extra piece. We need this. We need that. And it's like we hurt ourselves. The historic part, right? I'm watching the game in my living room, taking care of chores. We up. we up. What is it, 23-8? I'm like, oh, we got this.
Feeling good.
I'm thinking,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, this game is in the bag. I'm like, all right, we got this game. I can get a little distracted.
Yeah. You're going carpet. You're cleaning the kitchen. You're doing it with
Dusting
a little.
the bookshelves.
You got a little bounce to your step, right?
Yeah.
But in my head, I'm like, man, this is too good to be true. To the Broncos, what are you? I was anticipating a letdown, right? And then I turned the game away, and next thing you know, it's like 23-19. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And I'm telling you now, I knew it was going to happen as soon as they told me, and I hate to call out players, but as soon as Deontay Banks got in the game, they make that fluke catch in the end zone. And I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna target Deontay Banks. Oh my God, they're gonna target Phillips. Oh my God, they got a target on their backs. Anytime, if I'm a fan, even though I'm a former college football player, if I'm a fan, and I can see that, I know DCs who do this for a daily living are like, all right, number 2's in the game, number 22 is in coverage, go at them. Those are targets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just frustrating to know that, oh my gosh, they're liabilities. Like, guys, I don't know what it is. Howard and John were talking, saying that he's the third best corner on the depth chart. I get it, but it has to be somebody competing for a strong third with him. There's no way he's our last hope. Because if that's the case, either he needs to step up and get it together because he's a liability, or we need to get somebody else in there that can do the job to a better status than what he's doing. And then I want to go back to the first caller about Jalin Hyatt. I was a big fan of him at Tennessee, even though I know everybody was joking him because he only could run fades or streaks and stuff like that. But the problem is he doesn't know how to stem DBs off, right? He doesn't know how to stem DBs off when they are playing on him. Tight coverage and press coverage. So that's the problem. Even in the game against Denver, even though the ball was overthrown to him, he might be able to catch a ball if he's not running, looking back 15 yards. Run to your point, and then look. As a receiver, your job is to run and then start looking to high point the ball. You don't run looking back the whole time. That's why you Dart could have judged if shot. No, so you could get it, or like you're running looking backwards. Like, no, that's not how you're taught to run, especially on a streak or a fade. You run, you get to a point, and then you turn your head around, anticipating the ball after you get to your mark. But anyway, all that to say is just a lot of these players, I don't feel like are developing to the level we need to develop them at, based on their draft. And like I said, I just don't know if we have the right people in the building.
Well, time will tell, Jamal, and you know, as a former football player yourself in college, and all, it's such a week-to-week league. It's such a week-to-week game. You're only as good as what you've done on the field. I mean, after Thursday Night Football's win over the Eagles, nobody was questioning if there's the right people in the building, and then all of a sudden they lose. And
I was. I'm like, okay, I wasn't too high.
Okay.
Wasn't too. I'm like, all right, this is good. We beat the Eagles, but also to your point, they had no Carter. We took advantage of some things as you're supposed to, right? They're still NFL players, and we took advantage of it. My thing is, like you said, week to week. Can we do the same thing when they have all their people and we don't?
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, can we compete to that level and when they're rolling? So all I'm saying is I just think we have the talent. I see it. Love Scottaboo. He's a dog. Arizona State kid, Stat kid from Cali. I'm a San Diego guy, so I'm from Cali. So, love his attitude, love his energy. Dart, same thing. It's just too many miscues.
All right.
Too many things that are happening, and I don't know if we need to go in year 4 just hoping and praying because we have some athletes. Are these people the right people to get this thing going?
All right. Well, thank you so much for the call, Jamal, and thanks for getting all that stuff out there. Back to one of the first points he made, though. Let's go through because Jamal made a lot of points.
To unpack,
There's a lot to unpack.
I'm pretty sure Jamal played receiver when he started talking about he got a stem off of press coverage.
Yeah, which again, that's the point we made earlier as well. I think that we agree.
He's seeing stuff.
But here's what I will say to his first point about Jackson Dart. One thing that I think stands out about what Dart did, not just how, his teammates and coaches are talking about him, but Nick Bonito went on Kay Adams' show and was talking about how impressed he was with Jackson Dart, how, that young man was, more than I expected out of him. After you've played there's no reason. Nick Bonito has no reason to be talking about Jackson Dart for that way. He has no reason to have any words of praise or, whatever. And especially considering the amount of trash talk that they had towards the young quarterback going into that game. The fact that he went on a national platform and made that statement of, yeah, this guy really impressed me, that I think is telling, because when you've got a young quarterback and, the people in the building believe in you, that's one thing. But when opposing players are saying, all right, I recognize you. When you're seeing opposing players come over to you, you saw, the Broncos guy come over when the field goal went through and give him a little dap up and be like, hey, good game. When they are saying, I see you on the other side in another jersey, that I think is a sign of, all right, something was working here.
Yeah, game recognizing game. I think when you see a guy like Nick Bonito give props like that to a rookie, the first thing that comes to mind is, whenever you're playing a rookie quarterback, your number one thing is, let's rattle him. Let's see if we can get him frustrated.
Right.
Let's get him off his game. Let's see how he handles it and what kind of poise does he have. You don't get those kind of props if you're flustered and you're rattled and they can tell that, oh man, this guy is swimming. He's just trying to keep his head above water. So I think the fact that Jackson Dart made a lot of throws, navigating that pocket, we gave credit to the offensive line, but a lot of that too is if you've got a quarterback that really moves up in the pocket well and it can evade some of those rushers and not get flustered and not panic, that helps. And I think that's probably what Bonito saw. And look, they took the lead. Jackson Dart let him down on a big drive, made some big throws. Mm-hmm. He took a couple hits, and still hung in there and hung tough. So I think when players see all of that, they recognize it, and it's like, hey, you know what, that dude's, he's locked in.
Yeah.
He's not gonna get rattled. He's gonna make plays too, even when we, have a chance to hit him or sack him or tackle him. He's finding a way to kind of get out of some of that. So that was definitely good to see. Look, Jamal, he laid a lot on us. I think there's a lot of those discussions.
Sometimes you just want to be heard, and I respect it.
I get it. He's got a vent. He's down in Dallas, and he's got to see those, the stars flying everywhere. My parents live in Colleyville, so my dad's in the same boat. He's still waving his flag. He's waving Big Blue. But I think, one of the conversations that Jamal was having was on a macro level. Hey, where are we going and what are we doing?
Right.
Look, that's all TBD. This book of this year of 2025, there's a lot of chapters left to be written. Those are things they're going to have to figure out and iron out as the season goes along. And then at the end of the year, they reassess, do we need to add some more talent on the roster? Every year you do. Do we need to add some things to the coaching staff? If everything goes as planned, they probably will do that as well. And you kind of, you go through all that in the offseason. But the one thing I always take pause with is, let's stop judging teams and coaches week to week, because every week is different. And look, you want to learn from mistakes. Mistakes are going to get made, but they're learning lessons if you improve and you don't make the same mistakes. So that's, I think, where fans get really frustrated, is if you see the same mistakes happening, those things need to be get corrected. But
people need to be given grace to make mistakes and to evolve out of them, because if you make a mistake and then it's like, well, off with your head, then there's just
it doesn't feel like it's the same stuff every single time, because that would be an easy fix. But the analogy that I will use is, I mentioned it before. I can't remember which Super Bowl it was, but it was Atlanta and the Patriots, right? Atlanta's up 28-3 in the third quarter. I don't know if it was halfway through the third quarter or what the time was. That was a colossal collapse in the Super Bowl on the grandest stage. And I think a lot of people walked away from that. How could you do that? What kind of idiot coaches would do that? You know who the coaches were for Atlanta? Dan Quinn, who's down in Washington, kicking butt, and Kyle Shanahan, who's had one of the best teams in the NFL every single year, ravaged by injuries, still finding ways to win football games. Those are two of the best coaches in the league right now. Yeah. So they lost that game in a dramatic fashion, and I think those are some of the things that you learn as a coach is, here are things that we cannot do. We cannot lose games because of this, this, and this. So, I think every coach is constantly evolving with all of that. The fact that, you win a game against the Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday Night Football, you clobber them, and everything looks great, and then you get into this tight game against Denver and you lose the game. Those are because of certain little plays, certain situations where, guys, this is the difference between winning and losing. It could be these two plays. Forget about the kicks. It could be these two plays, one on offense, one on defense.
Yeah.
And those are the things that, as players, your coaches can talk to you ad nauseum about it. This is what we can't do. This is how we have to handle the situation. You have to learn as a player how to win. It's not just, hey, all right, we're going to play 3 great quarters and we've got the game won. No, that's not how it happens. You get the game in the fourth quarter, and then you make the plays in the fourth quarter to win you the game.
Execute.
That's what
the
the players have to learn, and they have to understand that is when you have to make those plays.
Right. The Giants' official connected TV streaming app, Giants TV, brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and on the Giants mobile app. 201-939-4513. Let's get through these last few calls as our show dwindles down, starting with Malachi in Florida. Malachi, thanks so much for calling in. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun and Madelyn.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I had 2 questions. I wanted to talk about our wide receiver core. Obviously, Neighbors is hurt, but I feel like Slayton hasn't really put up production.
He's been hurt as well and out the last few weeks with the hamstring.
Yeah, I know he got that hamstring injury, but even during that game, I just felt like he wasn't like fighting to catch those contested balls. Where I feel like he should be when he's the veteran in that group, comparison to like last week when Humphrey, his big body frame, he caught one of those contested balls. He jumped up for that ball. And like this week, even though we had amazing offensive production, we had one receiver catch a ball this week, which is just a little concerning, right? And obviously, if the coaches are planning for it to be a tight end heavy game plan, like that's one thing. But I just feel like in what I've seen, not just from one game, but from multiple games beyond Neighbors when he was healthy, our other wide receivers just haven't really put the tape for me to be like, okay, like we can build around that. I think Wandell has showed some promise, right? But he's smaller and he's a slot receiver, I believe that's the proper word. Where I would like to see our other wide receivers, or if we need to find different ones, right? Because I feel like there's been like, oh, let's trade for Waddell. Like, can we get picks for Slayton? I'm just throwing something out there to see what we can get in a draft. Otherwise, I just haven't felt the from our other receivers. And then I guess my only other question is, what would you guys be looking right now from what we've seen for that first round pick? Are we looking more defense or offense? Like, where are we at with that? Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much for calling in, Malachi. First round draft pick next year. I think we're not quite there yet. We don't even know where the Giants are picking.
I appreciate the question. We're not going to waste our time with that right now.
There's a lot remains to be seen.
We got a whole off season to talk about that.
And also, the draft order can be myriad of things and all that kind of stuff that just, we're not in draft season just yet. But please call back later on in the year and we'll circle back to that topic.
Look, I mean, I'm not really sure what the question was with Darius Slayton. He has been hurt.
Just he wanted to vent.
Slayton has been the big play option for years now. And everybody, there's been times where people are like, oh, Slayton's not that great, and then all of a sudden, boom, he has a monster game, and he shows up and ends up. He's actually played really well against Philly.
Well, and to compare,
that's for one reason. For some reason, that's always been his
go-to. His
game. Some of his best games have been against the Birds.
But to compare it to like NBA, which NBA season just tipped off yesterday, and shooters shoot, right? There's some guys who are big 3-point shooting options, and they'll just everything goes through the bucket, and then sometimes they're on a dry spell, and you just brick. You just need to see the ball go through the hoop. Slayton has had that happen sometimes. When he first came into the league in training camp his rookie year, he had a bad case of the drops.
Yeah.
Worked through that, got it going. He was great. He was reliable. Every once in a while, though, he gets on a little bit of a spell in which he's like, oops, I got a case of the dropsies. And that happened to him again the other day, which I think Malachi was attributing that to, where, he had that one ball in his hands and kind of dropped it. He knows that. He's watching that. It's something that kind of happens at times. He's got to work through that, get out of that slump again. We all get into our slumps at times. That's his.
Yeah, I mean, you look around the league, it happens. Like Marvin Harrison, I mean, he had feet for hands. More than a couple times. I remember Jamar Chase, when his rookie year, I think he dropped the first 3 passes in his first game, and everybody was getting on him. And even Malik Neighbors, his rookie year, he dropped a 4th down pass in Washington that if he catches, we probably win that game. So that is not something that is foreign to that position. But I think, look, this wide receiver core has been stressed. With Malik Neighbors going down, it's been all hands on deck. Like, everybody's got to step up. Everybody's going to get opportunities.
Well, and the coverage is so different now, too. With Malik Neighbors going down, you no longer have to double or kind of spot, like Robert focus on one player, so the coverage is kind of spread a little bit more evenly.
Yeah, and look, I think, every defense is coming in saying, look, we're not going to give up the big play. We're going to keep everything in front of us. So Darius Slayton, he and Jalin Hyatt both, like, their best asset is their speed. So if defenses are playing too high safeties and they're playing these zone defenses to prevent those big time throws and letting guys get behind them, you have to take what they're giving you. So a lot of that is kind of the second level intermediate type throws and routes. And, that's where you kind of have to adapt as an offense to just say, hey, look, here's what they're doing. Here's how we're going to attack them. And you know what? It's going to have to be a 12-play drive for a couple times until we get them to go single high and man coverage, and now we can get somebody to blow by them.
201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's go back to the lines. Marcus in California. Marcus, thanks for calling in from the West Coast. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun and Madelyn.
Hey, how are you guys doing? Madelyn, Shaun, thank you again. I think I was the only one last 2 weeks ago that said, let's go beat the Eagles, so I'm calling again. Superstitious, saying, let's just go beat the Eagles and show them who we are.
I like it.
And, I know no one's probably going to agree with this, but we should probably have two kickers with Koo and Gano, if you could go, just because Koo was 100% last year on extra points, and I think we're going to need touchdowns and not field goals this game anyway. So let's go beat the Birds, and shout out to the offensive line again.
Thanks for calling, Marcus. I think, I get what he's saying there, but it is also something to consider how, limited and valuable those game day jerseys are. If you've got two kickers and,
you're
say
not going to dress two.
You're not going to dress two just because you never know. Like if injuries happen in the DBs, like we saw last week where Paulson Adebo, Jamal, you need more depth at other positions, whereas a just in case maybe kicker, it would be tough.
Yeah, look.
I think you just gotta, if you trust Graham.
McAtamy was released. I think Younghoe Koo is still on the practice squad.
Yep.
And Graham Gano has been activated. So I think this is a big week for Graham Gano. He's going to kick today, I'm sure. He's going to kick tomorrow. And if I'm Dave, I'll make him kick Friday. All 3 days, you got to prove to me that you are 100%. If I feel or see any kind of limitation, then you can't go into a game and have your kicker not healthy for whatever reason. So
and it's been unfortunate for Graham too, because it's not just that he's gone in with a question and whatnot. There have been moments where he's gone in fully healthy and then something happens, a new injury pops up.
Both.
And he is later on, and he's he's on the back nine of his career. He's been in this league for quite some time. These things happen, but you're right. Dable has to say, I unequivocally trust that you're going to be able to go out there and deliver for us. Otherwise, Younghoe Koo's getting the nod.
Yeah, and Graham Gano, I mean, look, he's been one of the best kickers in the league, especially 50 plus. I mean, the guy's from 50 yards out, he's been almost automatic. Look, Adam Vinatieri, I think he kicked till he was 45.
Yeah.
To your point about the injuries, he blew his hamstring out covering a kickoff against Washington in week 2. That's not. Look, I don't know why he was chasing the guy. So, I mean, you can have that conversation, but that wasn't something that was pre-existing and went into the game and it got exacerbated on that play. That happened in the game, on the field. There's nothing you could do about that.
Yeah.
This latest growing injury, that happened 5 minutes before kickoff.
Yeah, that's
he
just
went
a freak
out
accident.
and was kicking pregame and everything was fine. There was no pre-existing condition, and then all of a sudden, boom, it locked up on him. So those are things that it happened. I mean, it sucks when it happens, but it's not something that you can foresee and you can say, all right, we're going to dress a second kicker for all that. So, no, they're not going to dress two kickers. I think if Graham Gano has any kind of issue or tightness after kicking, then maybe you got to make a decision. But the fact that he's activated means that he must be ready to go, and I'm sure he's going to have to prove himself this week. Absolutely.
And speaking of injury, we're getting some YouTube comments as well. Jackson Black wants to know, is Slayton back this week? He is practicing, was not mentioned by Dable as one of the players is not practicing, so we'll see how he does, how he works through. Again, a hamstring is a tough one, especially for a speed guy like him. But after missing a couple of weeks, I would anticipate if he's back on the practice field on a regular basis this week, we'll continue to monitor that, and hopefully he will be good to go against the Illadelph, because as you mentioned, Shaun, it's a team that he has historically played quite well against.
Yeah, and if he is healthy, it'll be interesting to see because, look, little Jordan Humphrey, he had 74 snaps last week. He actually had more snaps than Wan'Dale Robinson. So those were the 1-2, and then, Jalin Hyatt had 25 snaps. Bo Collins had 6 snaps.
Mm-hmm.
So now if Slayton dresses, the challenge is, you've got Gunnar Olszewski, who's
Gunnar Olszewski.
He's dressing because he is the
Special
returner.
Teams, yeah.
So if you dress 5 receivers, one of those guys is deactivated for Slayton. So maybe you don't see Bo Collins instead of Slayton, but the challenge is those other receivers have to play special teams. So Bo Collins got to play special teams. Jalin Hyatt, I don't know if he's on special teams or not, but if Slayton comes on and you lose Bo Collins, now somebody else is going to have to fill his spot on special teams. So those are all things that come into play when you're talking about the roster spot as well.
Roster juggling, and another reason too that as much as we'd love the luxury of having a backup, kicker ready for game day, it just wouldn't work out. 201-939-4513. Russell in North Carolina is calling in. Russell, thanks for calling. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun and Madelyn.
Hey, what's going on? So I'm gonna say something real quick so y'all can understand, Giants fans. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. So I'm in the military, right? I've been in the military for 23 years, and I'm also going after my doctor's degree.
Oh, wow.
You go through your rough patch. Yeah, you go after your rough patches. 23 years, I'm retiring. I'm sitting in my living room right now. So when I say that, it's about Joe Shaun. We got the quarterback. Giants fans, it's going to be some highs and lows because we have a rookie quarterback. So we're going to be the type of team that shouldn't win certain games and lose certain games because we got the quarterback. You know what I'm saying? He's a rookie quarterback. Is going to make mistakes. And when I said that it's not going to be easy, it's not going to be worth it, because next year is really the year that now we can start thinking about playoffs. This year we are analyzing Jackson Dart. So when I say about Joe Shaun, what are you going to do next? You got the quarterback, because you got to think, last couple of years we was iffy on the quarterback. No offense to Daniel Jones. I see him playing well with the Colts. But we weren't feeling like that. We was like, oh, is he here? Is he not? Is he it? Is he not? Then when Russell Wilson came in there, we was expecting Russell Wilson to last longer than this, and he didn't do it. So Jackson Dart is out there. He looks promising. Scat looks good. It's just a couple of things we need to fix. Now it's on Joe Shaun, because everybody wanted to call for Brian Dable. Hey, I'm not really mad at Brian Dable. I'm really not mad. Like the last play call when he threw the interception, I understand he believes in his quarterback and he wants to see what he's going to do. We weren't supposed to win at Denver. We took them to the ropes. They came back. Kudos to them. It's okay. We Eagles, even if we don't lose, as long as we competitive, we fine. It's going to be worth it at the end, Giants fan. I'm optimistic with this team. It's going to be worth it. I just want to see how Jackson Dart develops during the rest of the season. Next year is really the year we got to go, okay, show me what you got. And that's really all I got to say.
I love it. Thanks for the call, Russell. And I like the positivity, and I also agree absolutely with the sentiment. Name one thing that you've accomplished in life that was easy, that feels like, wow, that's a huge deal. It's the things that are challenging that you overcome that feel the most rewarding.
Yeah, Russell, appreciate your phone call, and we appreciate your service. So salute to your service, and thank you for all that you do. Good luck
and
in
kudos
med
with
school.
med school. That's incredible. Yeah,
I think he's a hard-headed dude.
Yeah.
I mean, military is hard enough, and now he's going to med school. He's not scared.
Russell's not scared of a challenge.
No,
I
Russell's
respect
not scared. He sounds unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
unlimited.
I threw that out there. So. Look, it's been on Joe Shaun for years now. This is not new. It was on him to find Jackson Dart, find a franchise quarterback. I think to Russell's point, you either have one or you don't.
Right.
And I think that's kind of, the NFL has always been a haves and have-not kind of league. If you have a franchise quarterback, then you can spend a lot of your other time building around him. This offseason is going to be completely different. Last year, think about how much time, energy, resources the Giants spent on evaluating these quarterbacks, because they knew they were going to try to get one. And it's okay, not only, this started way back, probably a year and a half ago, just scouting the kids, seeing them in college, flying to their games, watching them in person. The amount of time that they spent bringing them in on visits and flying out to watch them work out, and all of that time and energy now can be allocated to other positions and other players, because you're not going to spend and invest that much time on a quarterback in round 1 or round 2 because you have your franchise guy. So I think that is definitely a valid point.
When having your franchise guy also, and you have your identity of what this team is and how this team is building, and kind of figuring out, okay, finding pieces that fit into that identity and that culture that is being established as this team is building.
Yeah, and I think, when you look at the offensive line, you've got some really good players. You're going to want to add to that. You add some talent, add some competition.
Mm-hmm.
Cam Scadaboo has been, way more than as advertised. I mean, they got him, they stole him.
Yeah.
When they drafted him. I think when you look at Tyrone Tracy, what he did his rookie year, you've got a good 1-2 punch there in the backfield, and Malik Neighbors coming off of ACL, obviously, but you've got a stud receiver. You're going to try to add to that, and I think that's where the Giants are going to look when it comes time for all that. How do we add more players to help our quarterback win games and make it a little bit easier for him on third down? So those are all things that they're definitely going to have to figure out. And
it starts with
it's
this
not
week.
New for Joe Shane.
Yeah.
I think he's, he has. When you look at the last 2 drafts, I mean, the players that he has actually drafted have played really well. Last year, I think the Giants led all rookies in the league in the amount of snaps by drafted rookies, or maybe just rookies in general. Contributions from all those players, and you're seeing a lot of those players now in Tyler Nubin and Drew Phillips. Even Dame Belton's stepping up and filling in. You look at the defensive line. Look, he brought in Brian Burns. He's been one of the best players in the league, not just on the Giants, but in the league this year.
Yeah.
When you look at Abdul Carter, and Kayvon Thibodeau, and then all of those players, like, he has drafted well. So I think that he has earned the respect that, look, he can see talent and he identifies it, and he's done a good job making decisions with some of those.
He and the entire
a couple
scouting
misses,
staff have
but
done an
overall,
incredible job. Yeah.
I think he's found some gems.
Yeah, and we just got to keep those uncut gems building towards, good things and keep it moving. But starting with this one in Philly, Week 8 at the Philadelphia, at the Link, a tough one. The Giants have shown that they could do it with a Week 6 win over the Eagles. And, yes, the Eagles are 5-2, but every win that they've got this season is by 7 points or less. So they're kings of the close game.
Look, this game's coming down to the fourth quarter.
If you play them close.
No doubt.
No doubt. We'll be there. We'll be watching it. Shaun's going to be running the 5K in the morning at MetLife Stadium. I may or may not do it. It'll be a game time decision. We got peer pressure over here. Kind of. Listen, I'm just a commitment phobe when it comes to 5Ks.
It's not just the Sunday morning. It definitely changes things for your Saturday night.
Exactly. It changes. Mama needs a cocktail. What if I have a martini?
That's fine. Just start at 5:30.
There you go.
Don't wait till 11:30.
We're workshopping this. We're figuring it out. There may or may not be a 5K appearance by me on Sunday, but you know what? I hope you guys are going to be there. It's going to be a great experience. 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. Come join us.
Let's do it.
Come yog, and then we'll be doing Giants post game after the Eagles game.
Sounds good.
Checking it out. All right. Well, that's a wrap of our Big Blue Kickoff Live for Wednesday, October 22nd. Thanks for hanging out with us in the Giants podcast studio presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. And thanks for listening to today's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live presented by Cadillac. It's a part of the Giants podcast platforms everywhere and giants.com/podcast. For the Super Bowl champ, Shaun O'Hara, I'm Madelyn Burke. We'll see you next time.